Yeah, better late than never. Hey, always for us anyway, for women. For me anyway. I am so delighted to have you here today. I no disrespect to anybody that I've ever interviewed, but I've never been so excited. My heart, and only because not only because, but a lot of reasons. How I met you, how I came across you. I saw one of your posts because my girlfriend won a skirt. So, right, and she was so excited. We were all excited. We were just so excited because of how beautiful it was. And then when I started to look into Tala Tootoosis, is that how you say it?
Yes,
Tutu,
yes, that's how you say
yeah.
it.
I was like, oh my gosh, I've seen her before. On my very first ever mailer or like information piece that I put together for my school board that I worked with. I'm an Indigenous education advisor. I used an article that was written about you. And
Oh
I
my
was just
God.
like, we are meant to be doing this. We are meant to be doing this. So I'm so excited that you're here with us, Tara. And I, before we get started, I just want to acknowledge my grandmother. And I like to think that she's always here with me, but you and I had a quick conversation last night to just kind of make sure everything was working right from technology perspective, and we talked about how deep our conversation could go today. And I just wanted to acknowledge that we have I've been burning medicine, and I've done my prayers and inviting our ancestors in with us today, because this work that we do, the conversations we have as women advocating for what is important to us, can be really heavy sometimes, and not just heavy for our viewers, but for ourselves and our ancestors. So, we know that this work that we do is healing. But it's also a lot of love and a lot of fun and a lot of excitement in growing and healing. And with this opportunity in the world right now to be able to connect, across the waters and the land is really exciting. So, Nyawangoa, for being here today with us. I have all kinds of notes and things planned and questions, but I'm just gonna roll with this, and just please step in and tell us about yourself. And I know a lot of the people that are watching and going to watch are really excited to hear you speak, because they're all waiting patiently for their skirts. So please, welcome, sister, and tell us who you are.
Uh, my name is Tala Tootoosis. That's my English name. Tawalinas yung gatsuya tukoinu nehio square sigasuyan. That's my Cree name, and Atawalinas yung gatsu. So it's my Mohawk name. Come from the Akwesasne Longhouse Bear Clan. Come from Treaty 6 territory, Sturgeon Lake First Nation in Saskatchewan, Canada. I am Plains Cree, Nakota Sioux, and Haudenosaunee. I am a motivational speaker, a poet. I am a ribbon skirt maker or a designer, as well as a advocate for rape culture and sexual assault survivors. As best as I can, not a professional at it yet. I'm still learning a lot. I think I'll always learn a lot. But as a person who has a background in Indigenous social work, I got my degree in 2013. A lot of my focus of my practice has been strength-based practice, holistic work, and finding ways to work with our culture, implementing it, and dissecting what colonialism has done to our therapeutic practices already in our culture, and trying to implement them into regular work that doesn't seem intrusive, that doesn't seem um, to bat you over the head 1,000 times to get you to learn something that's not needing to be super repetitive for you to understand it, something that involves you. I wanted to have a practice and everything that I do and all the work that I do that touches people so that they feel the change and understand why change is important. So, with all of the work that I do, I really wanted to make sure that the focus wasn't always just on me, but on the change of behavior so that people can understand that it's not the person you focus on, it's the patterns. whether it's healthy or unhealthy in regards to healing. And so there are different patterns that I've come up with in my life and come to understand what works and what doesn't work, and patterns in regards to sewing, patterns in regards to beading and quilling, patterns in regards to social work practices or writing. I've published my own book, and I've been published in another book as well. I will be reading a poem, I believe, at the end of this. It's called We Will Begin Again, and it's about smashing patriarchy. It's about taking the lens of the Indigenous woman and removing it and putting in the realistic idea of who I am as an Indigenous woman, and just kind of putting that on the table and saying, this is who I am, and tell a little story about that. Is there anything else you wanted me to introduce, or did you just want me to go in and about my work?
Well, you know what? I have points. I've grabbed quotes. I've grabbed certain parts in your life. Oh my God, that Pepsi looks amazing. It reminds me of my father right now.
Oh,
Yes,
Pepsi.
yes, I think that's time for one of those. You know what? Because I don't want to miss things, okay? I don't want to miss important things because you have this just amazing power and spirit that just exudes and it touches people, and your ideas are amazing. So yes, like motivational speaker, fashion designer, and your book, the book, I ordered it last night. I don't know if you saw
Me
that on.
too.
Yeah,
That's
I
so
had to,
awesome.
and I want to buy, I'm going to buy several of them because I think it's going to be, just
Oh,
from
that is
reading your
super
reviews.
cool.
I know I just got goosebumps too, because I was, after our conversation, I was just like so excited. It was quite late, but I stayed up and I read reviews and I read things that you said, and this is what I'm thinking, that because I never really knew why I'm doing this, right? I really got heavy into being on Grandmother's Voice platform because Speak Up and Empower offered this opportunity, and thank you to them for giving us this space. I think it's going to be really important and powerful for the work that we do. Everything that you just talked about, what you're creating, that experiential learning that Indigenous understanding can offer to people is all about what we do with with the Grandmother's Voice in this platform. And so when I came across your book, The Awakening, and then it was like the whole awakening of the kokum spirit in the young woman. Like, so in my mind, I'm like, okay, what do we talk about first? Because, oh my God. But I want to know first, kokum, for those people that don't understand and what it is, maybe you can talk about that, and then the campaign, and then we can kind of go into the book, meat of your book, because it was like that book anyway, because it had a lot of like different elements of how to express yourself. And you said this, I'm going to say this because it just resonated with me. It's a compilation of her spoken word poetry blog posts along with some of her favorite images. I wanted to create something that wouldn't take too long to read but would contain some teachings. That's what you said. And I'm so interested. I want it right now in my space. So tell us about your book. Or sorry, tell us about the kokum and then the book, and then you go to town.
Okay, so I'm Plains Cree, and in Cree, kukum means grandmother. So when I do things, I always make sure that there's an intent behind it. So I had gone to a fashion show and I'd gone with my sister, and they were interviewing the teenage models, and they're all Indigenous, and they had asked them about the MMIW G2S movement. And a lot of them had answers, normal answers, like they understand women are going missing, but they didn't really understand any facts. They didn't know any actual cases. And I thought, that's on us. We need to teach, we need to show that somehow. So I wanted to talk about the Cookum Scarf campaign, and I wanted to make a Cookum Scarf campaign. And it wasn't really a campaign at first. It was just an idea. And I wanted to do using my social media platform, do a contest. And so I asked women on Facebook, why don't you upload a picture of yourself on Facebook? Use your profile photo, put a kokum scarf on your head, or, oh,
Sorry about that. She's coming back. Unfortunately, sometimes that's what we have to deal with. Probably a lot of people online doing work right now. But anyway, I'm going to read something else while she comes back on. This was another quote from her, from Tala, from her book. When we want to tell someone something, sometimes we speak from a place of hurt, healing, or healed. I speak from I speak from all places in order to be authentic. My poetry has triggers, traumas, successes, and stories. I'm normally not comfortable sharing with just anyone. Poetry helps me tell stories without getting too personal with the reader, but close enough to help you know how it feels. Okay, I had to read that because I had to fill in the spots, but anyway, it's so good. So good.
Sorry about that.
No,
I think it
no,
was my Wi-Fi connection has been going out all morning, so I changed the Wi-Fi, home Wi-Fi, and just put on my data.
awesome. Thank you.
So, you wanted me to talk about the Cookum Scarf campaign?
Yeah, you were talking about being at the fashion show. I love the story you were telling me last night.
Right. Yeah. So, I decided I wanted to find a way to educate our young people, and so I asked women on Facebook.
Just one sec. One sec. Lower your or lift your camera up just a little bit. It looks like we're only getting part of your face. Yeah. Well, a little more. Okay, there you go. Might look awkward to you, but yeah, you're centered now. We're gonna roll with this.
Okay. Okay.
And you guys watching,
So,
anybody, you guys can talk in the chat. So just tell us what's going on from your
I
end.
can't
Thank
see
you.
a chat. Is there a chat?
I have a chat on my end. So if it
Okay.
comes up, I'll tell you what they're saying.
Cool. All right. So I wanted women to use their social media platform and know that they didn't have to be somebody important to teach and to educate, that they themselves, the people on their friends list, they could be an educator and they could be a role model, they could be a leader. And so what I thought is, how about I take a picture and I'll put a Cookum scarf on my head and I'm going to put 2 facts about the MMIW G2S. And then I want everybody else to do that. And once you do that, tag me, and all of our social medias will be connected. The first time I had 28 submissions. So that's 28 women posting 2 facts each about the movement, about cases, about the facts, statistics, things like that. And it was so amazing. I ended up donating 3 ribbon skirts, beaded medallion, and beaded earrings. And I had just anonymous judges. It was basically pulled from the hat, and it was really empowering to have that because there was women who normally don't speak out using their social media as a platform to educate about MMIWG2S. And I just think that's really important to do that. And so because the first time was a hit, I wanted to do it again. But the second time, what happened was I said, I'm going to get you to take a picture of yourself with a Cookum scarf on your head and any way you want. And I want you to wear a statement tee, sweetgrass, ceremony, language, Reclaim Your Power usually has a lot of those kinds of teas. There's a whole bunch of different Indigenous brands. I wanted people to support Indigenous businesses and then wear a ribbon skirt and then go somewhere cool. Find an amazing epic background, something that means something to you. And then in a caption, I want you to write 4 things. One thing about reclaiming your Indigenous motherhood, one thing about reclaiming your Indigenous education, your cultural education, academic even. What about reclaiming your land, or sobering up from drugs and alcohol, something. Just talking about yourself in a good way, just so that we can tackle this fear mentality that society has been trying to implement on Indigenous women since we've been going missing and getting murdered, so that we could say, okay, every single day I know that I could go out and I could get murdered, I could get raped, I could get kidnapped. However, I'm a fighting Indigenous woman. I'm a strong and powerful Indigenous woman. My ancestors never, ever were weak. They were powerful. My grandmothers were powerful. So I wanted to harness that power and say, even though I could go out and be kidnapped and murdered or raped, I'm still going to get up in the morning and braid my hair. I'm still going to wear my ribbon skirt in public and be visible, even though I'm a target, because I'm not afraid, and I'm going to wear this Cookum scarf to symbolize that resilience of the Cookum walks with me. And for me, my Cookum, and a lot of people, and I know I'm privileged, a lot of people don't have a Cookum, a lot of them don't have aunties. But I really wanted to symbolize that Cookum power because my late grandmother, Nancy Rat from Larange, She would wake up at 6 a.m. at 95 years old and clean her house, start cooking potatoes and deer meat. And she would even like go to bingo all the time. And I remember one time she was going down the stairs and I was like, oh, Cookum, let me help you. And she's, Bugman, what's stick? And she was about to hit me. And I was like, Mom, Cookum just about hit me. And she was like, it's because you can't help her. Cookum's a proud woman. And I was like, wow, like you can't help her. In one way, that's kind of like, an over trauma response. But at the same time, it was something to emulate, something that I thought to be proud of. Like, I want to be super solid. I want to be super strong. I want to be able to know that I'm 95 and I can cook for myself because I've been taking care of myself so good, And so I wanted to wear that Cookum scarf in that way. And that's what it meant to me. And these ribbon skirts. And so one of the most powerful submissions was Liz Shanes. She's from Ontario. And she had a accident. Something happened with her son. He had passed away and he had drowned. I believe he died in the water anyways. And her submission was her climbing a mountain, wearing her ribbon skirt, a statement tee, and a Cookum scarf. And she had a copper mug and she was holding it up to the waterfall, forgiving the water for what had happened to her son. I had no idea these submissions would go that deep. And it was just powerful to me. A lot of them were learning how to get back to their culture. A lot of them were just feeling a way to be proud because we've always been shunned to be Indigenous. In 1960s, there was a spiritual ban. We couldn't even gather. It was illegal. We couldn't wear anything traditional. They broke our drums, our pipes. They broke our rattles. They buried them. They destroyed every ceremony that could possibly be. And all lodge keepers and bundle keepers went into hiding, right? And so there's this fear, right? So it's so much more different. And I wanted to use that Cookum Scarf campaign, to empower our people, our women, and not EMPOWER, but IMPOWER, to acknowledge the power that already exists within them. That's a word that my uncle Tala Tootoosis always says. And the most recent one that I did was Youth Ambassador Cookum Scarf campaign, where I had young teenage girls go to school, high school, and wear their ribbon skirts, Cookum Scarf, and statement tee in class and in school. And so one of the girls, Faye Thomas's daughter, Faye's also a designer. I forget her daughter's name. I forget her name. Anyways, her and all of her friends, as well as a few other girls and the Arcan girl, that have pictures of them in high school, walking around in their jingle dress, walking around in their ribbon skirt. And it was to be disrespectful to those items. It was to represent their visibility. It was to represent that they are powerful because they are here in high school after years of being told they're going to be what's the word? What's that word when you're trying to like genocide?
Yeah,
Extinct. They were going to go extinct.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
we're in museums, right? Indian people are in museums just to be observed as artifacts that no longer exist. And yet, with that same thing that's happening in the world about how they look at us Indigenous people, I wanted these young people to be like, you know what? I'm in high school. I'm living and surviving and being successful in a system that's built for me to fail. And here they are being successful and being visible in it. And so that was the point of the Cookum Scarf campaign, was to empower women and to encourage them in a good way.
Amazing. I love it. Like, come on, great story. I love it. And I love, so I saw all that. I'm telling you, I think I was up until like 3 a.m. just reading about all this amazing stuff that you said, or that you did. But anyway, go right into your book. Go right into your book. Cause I have a lot of pages here of notes that I want to make sure I talk about with you, because I'm telling you that your skirts are the rage right now. And it's, and so anyway, before we get to the skirts, tell us about your book, because I think it's so important. Buy it. Everybody listening, if you got to click, jump off soon, or you can't hear me because my daughter's in the kitchen. Tell us about your book.
Okay, so my book, The Awakening of a Cookum Spirit in a Young Woman, was a way for me to tell a story. When I sobered up from crystal meth in 2003, my late grandfather, Angie Natauhau from Sturgeon Lake First Nation, said, you have to tell your story. You have to be brutally honest if you want to help people. You have to tell it in every single detail of what you felt, what you seen, what you heard, how it made you cry, how it made you happy, what the room looked like. What did it feel like, and how did you get from where you were to where you are now? If you tell your story with that brutal honesty, you can help people. And when I found spoken word poetry, Zoe Priceless Roy introduced me to it. And I was in university. I was in an Indigenous studies class, and my professor was white. She was teaching about the history of residential schools. I was failing purposely because I just didn't agree with having a white professor teaching me about Indigenous studies, learning that it was her people that took it away from us. But I had learned about this, and I told Zoe, and she said, "You know what? Write a poem." And I was like, okay, I'll write a poem. So I wrote a poem, and it was called Doubts, Thoughts, and Goals, which is one I should actually read after. And I explained history in it, and I explained how I felt about her in it. And she actually moved my grade from a 50 to an 85 because she said, "You know what? You understand the content, but I understand the trauma." And I said, "You're standing there in front of me. You're standing up. We're sitting down. You're teaching me my history that your people took away. Like, it's just really hard for me, intergenerational effects of residential school, to sit here and feel superior or to feel inferior. Like, there's all these like microaggressions going on between me and you. With, do you understand this?" Like, even just saying that at that kind of tone regarding the content is triggering, right? So I started to write and write and write. And I started performing at Lydia's, used to be called, here in Saskatoon. And then I got connected with Jason Eagle Speaker with Eagle Speaker Publishing. And he said, your status is you write a lot about addictions, you write a lot about poetry, you write a lot about psychology. You should just write a book. And I said, okay. I have a lot of poems in my notebook, in my phone. I have a lot of poems that I've written. I could just send them to you and send you some pictures and you could put it together. And he was like, yeah. He said, send me everything you possibly can. So I sent him all the stuff that I could, told him what went with what. We had a few drafts, looked at here and there, and published it. And it's all spoken word poetry about addictions, about relationships, about education, about being a woman, about rape culture. And it's just like my expression of myself in poetry, as well as finding a way, if you're going to go to your grandmother's house and you're like, "Grandma, I want to talk about rape culture." Like, that's not something you can really do these days. So I figured it was my way of being a cookum to talk about rape culture with the grandchildren that I don't have yet. But people could look at this like way of telling stories the way grandmothers do, but relaying information that would create dialogues that are important and beneficial to their mind, body, and spirit. And as Indigenous women, relearning what matriarchs are about or what Indigenous feminism is about, just being able to talk about skirt shaming, body shaming, slut shaming, being able to talk about body autonomy, being able to talk about don't touch my hair, being able to talk about don't touch my medallion, don't touch my ribbon skirt, my space, my body. Creating those conversations, I figured, was so important because of the amount of rape culture and sexual assaults that happen when people are trying to come into ceremony or trying to sober up from drugs and alcohol, and they meet elders or they meet leaders that are unhealthy in their mind, body, or spirit. Just being able to have that conversation creates questions. And you have questions, you have answers, you have paths, you have journeys, and then you have content. And then people have discussions. And I think that's really important. So that's why I wrote the book, to create discussions.
I have myself muted because I'm just like, if you're sitting here with me, I'm like making little noises like, oh, yeah. Like, I'm just so, oh, yeah, I love it. And it's so important. And these other conversations that we have, and, in the urban world right now, I mean, this is high on everybody's list right now. This is on, I've never heard so much about human trafficking and grants and trying to fix old systems. And, there is so much to talk about, but, you had mentioned, and I can't remember if it was in this conversation already or last night, we just spoke about prophecies and, a lot of how our elders have been speaking over the years about our prophecies is, this is the time right now. We're in a time where our Indigenous beliefs and understanding and everything that's happened to us has come forward, and we're here to use that knowledge to heal. and to remind people that we didn't just get here, we got here through a process, and that process is what's going to teach us. Anyway, there's I guess a comment you kind of touched on too. It's important to accept people who are trying to find their way back to culture and ceremonial ways, and to stop shaming and judgment. And that's what you associate with the colonial mindset. Me, for myself, being working in the school board and connecting community to, um, trying to connect community to that understanding, it's challenging, because you have the traditional people that have lived in the reserves and in the communities, and now they're being brought out into the urban communities, and it's really important to protect those people. But you had talked about, that some of those people aren't healthy. And these conversations that we have to have is really important. And you made a comment about taking back the power of a ribbon skirt was in one of your articles I read. That's what it was titled, Taking Back the Power of a Ribbon Skirt. And these are the part of the conversations that the challenging parts where why you make those ribbon skirts, right? To center yourself in your culture. But we know there's a lot of history in the skirts and the rape culture and like everything. So I mean, I'd like you just to kind of go in that space because and talk about what it is you want to. I know sometimes it can be challenging, but it's really on the forefront right now, and especially in the community that I'm in. People don't really want to talk about it, but everybody's filing for grants for it. So they want to talk about it. So how do we? I'd like your perspective on all of that.
In what?
Your from your skirt, taking
Oh,
back
okay.
the power of the skirt, right? Because I know that you have some connection with that and some messaging.
Right. Yeah. Oh, that's a hard topic to talk about, but it is so important. I was sexually assaulted by a medicine man, and that is why I took the skirt and made it important as reclaiming your power and taking your power back, and creating safe spaces in ceremony, creating safe spaces in healing places, creating safe spaces in treatment centers, in smudging circles, and pipe ceremonies, and round dances, and powwows, etc., etc. Um, I always thought that someone who is gifted is a good person. I always thought that. I always thought that if you have a pipe, or you're a medicine man or a medicine woman or an elder, you're a good person, that you did your work. But that's not true, because 95%, I'm just going to say 100% of Indigenous people suffer from intergenerational trauma, residential schools, PTSD, anxiety, all kinds of levels of trauma, right? Violent sexual childhood abuse because of residential school. So acknowledging that, I didn't at the time, even though, you can learn it in school and you can talk about it and you can say, oh yeah, everybody struggles with sexual abuse as children because residential school. But you never really understand how serious it is until you get slut shamed by a male elder because you're not wearing a skirt. Maybe you forgot it. Maybe you didn't know there was a pipe ceremony. This is something that happens a lot. And I wore a skirt for myself for like since 2013 to 2015, every single day of my life, for everywhere. I covered up. I didn't show any skin. I didn't wear any makeup. I was really, really um, told to suppress my sexual self, because the person who I was following in a ceremony way, the Sundance leader, was actually a sexual predator, and was grooming me and many other women. I didn't know anything about rape culture. I didn't know anything about narcissism. I didn't know anything about grooming. I just knew that this person said this and I had to listen, because he said the grandfather said so, because he said creator told him that. And so I had to listen, because you don't question the grandfathers. So when this person sexually assaulted me, it was in a teepee near Bundles, and it really messed me up, because I recovered from drugs and alcohol, from crystal meth, with traditional medicines. So it felt like he took that from me. And so because it felt like he took that from me, I walked away from ceremony for a while. I walked away from round dances and powwows, and I exposed him, and I got laughed at. I got victim blamed from almost so many people in the powwow world and in the ceremony world. Like, you should have knew better. Well, what did you do to ask for it? Well, you shouldn't have been trying to be with him. You shouldn't have been around him. You know, nobody asks to get raped. It doesn't matter what you wear. It doesn't matter what you say. You could invite someone over for dinner and you could cook a whole dinner and they don't have to eat it. That's the way it works. And I didn't understand any of that. I just thought it was my fault. But so I had asked for some help. And Kathy Pruden in Saskatoon here works at the Sexual Assault Center. And they have Sexual Assault Center therapy groups. And I started to go. Oh my God. It was just so eye-dropping to learn what skirt shaming was, to learn that it was nobody's business what my skirt looked like, if I had one or not. It was jaw-dropping to learn that I was victim blamed almost every single time I had been sexually assaulted or sexually abused. How many times I've been raped in every single relationship I've ever been in because I said no and they kept going, because coercive rape exists. And when I learned about all of this stuff, it was like, oh my God, we need to talk about this. We need to talk about this in Indigenous circles. We need to bring this up because it was all non-Indigenous people in this therapy group. And I brought my friend with me. And I was telling her, you know, like, I don't feel safe wearing ribbon skirts because I wore them for him. And I feel like, you know, every time I wear a ribbon skirt, every time I quill or a bead, I'm doing it for him because that was what was expected of me. And so I I had told my adopted mother, Paula Hornham, that I was scared to wear ribbon skirts. I was scared to bead, to sew, to quill. And she said, why? And I told her, because I don't want to do it for him. And she said, then don't. Change and rewire your brain, rewire your thinking. Take back those skirts because they're not his. It is a woman's teaching. Take back that skirt and give it back to the woman in a good way. Go and learn. Ask elders, as many as you can. What does this mean to you? What does this mean to you? Ask your grandfathers in ceremony and prayer and your grandmothers. Pray, pray, pray. Seek, seek, seek. And then go and teach that. So I had this idea, you know what? People want to learn how to make ribbon skirts. So I'm just going to go and I'm going to ask, and I'm going to do it this weekend. Like, it was totally like last minute. I said, Lindsay Knight, can you come do some rap about smashing patriarchy? Kathy Pruden, can you come talk about rape culture? Amber, can you come read some poetry? Hey, do you guys want to come and just see how I do? This will be my pilot project. There's no funding. There's no board of directors. There's no committee. This is just me. I think it's a good idea. Let's do it. Everybody was down. I rented the library downtown, grabbed a sewing machine, didn't even have an extension cord, nothing. I said, I'll just do a quick little ribbon skirt tutorial at the end, but we'll call it Ribbon Skirt Workshop, as a way of creating dialogue about rape culture. You know, the initiating factor was ribbon skirts. So it began with me talking about what it means to me, telling my story, you know, how I left that cult circle, how I started to heal from sexual assault and learning about rape culture. And then I took that skirt and I made it on the video, as well as talking about gifting ribbon skirts and making ribbon skirts and what it could mean, what rape culture is, what skirt shaming is, what the idea of Indigenous women is, how Hollywood projected this glamorized either butch squaw or silent submissive Indian princess, right? And I wanted to break that and say, I'm an Indian woman. I am a recovering addict of crystal meth and I have a social work degree. I struggle with anxiety and I have 3 kids. You know, like, that's not what they say Indigenous women look like or act like. I have tattoos. I have long hair. Sometimes I used to dye it. It was blonde. It was red. It doesn't make me any less or any more Indian in any way whatsoever. And I wanted to project that perspective, that break those stereotypes of what Indigenous women are supposed to look like, right? And so doing that, it helped me to tell my story. One, it helped me to teach rape culture. It helped me to teach about ribbon skirts. And it helped so many other women, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. If I could make a book about every single message I have on Facebook and Instagram of people who've watched my tutorial and now make their own ribbon skirts, have a whole line of ribbon skirts, or who have started going back to ceremony because they could make a ribbon skirt because nobody would make it for them because they didn't have aunties or grandmas or uncles aunties or grandmothers to teach them. So they learned themselves, and then they had a skirt. So then they went and found a ceremony to go to. Then they went and got their Indian name. Then they went and found out who their bloodline was. Then they started to teach their children, and it is so on and so on and so on. And people say it's just a skirt. Yeah, sometimes it can be just a skirt, but I would never wear it at a bar. I would never wear it around alcohol or drugs. And it keeps me sober in that way, as well as when I'm making it. It's indigenous, non-intrusive, therapeutic practices, because when you're sewing, you have to take your time, you have to breathe, you have to smudge, house has to be clean, have to be fed, have some snacks, have a good frame of mind. And when you're sewing and when you get done, you're like, oh my God, I made this cool thing and it feels so awesome. And I feel great because I'm an Indian person and I do Indian things. I don't know. It's just the thing that I know so many Indian people do. They're like, can I do an Indian thing? I can make bannock. Check out my bannock. It's like we have these things that we do.
I love it. I love the crap out of you. I'm like, my cheeks hurt. Okay. My cheeks hurt because I'm trying to keep my smile so like small. And my people that know me know that I'm in love right now. Like, I'm just in love with you.
Thank you. Love you too.
Yeah, I am. I got to shout out to Sherry because she couldn't make it. She's got meetings right now, and she's from your area. She's Cree, all that good stuff. So Sherry, like, oh my gosh, you're gonna watch this and you're just gonna be so happy. Anyway, I love it all. I love everything you're saying. I love everything. I have to say, without just talking about all of that, you said, I want to raise awareness and maybe even create prevention that young girls would learn not to walk or take cabs alone, for example. And I see you so big for young women. And so I have a daughter myself. And so, and go for being alive and being who you are. And anyway, you said, another thing you said in one of your interviews, or what they said, ultimately she just wants to be like the Kokums, and I think it's so true, and I think that's why I have my grandmother's voice. Like, we just see how beautiful they are and what they do for us, and it's so important to take back the power of the women, right? First, they've been protecting underground. I say that a lot. Our women were underground for so long. It wasn't really about oppression. It was about protection. We knew what we had to do to protect our women. Anyway, I love this. There's so much more to you. I could probably talk forever, but I said that, there were so many things that reminded you of me, not saying you're so great, I'm so great, but I can. I was like, I read this other one that said, this was how you closed one of your interviews. I'll wear a ribbon skirt, quill, make really good bannock, give good advice, except I will have tattoos and listen to Tupac. Okay. I love Tupac. Even though there was a part in his life where he did sing about the, I guess, like, disposability of women, we'll say, okay, because he was young and thug life, and he promoted this stuff, but he said, keep your head up, right? Dear mama, like, I don't listen. I'm in a place now where I don't really listen to the lyrics of things, and I think it's maybe because I'm moving so much into loving my culture and loving my connection to spirit and that life. But he had some good lyrics about Black women and their power and mothers and some really important stuff. And he was such an advocate, a young, strong spirit and talented. And I love that. I love the advocacy part of it. And I love everything that you're doing. You're just really amazing. Is there anything else that you want to share? And now that we've gotten to know each other a bit, and you're about to make my dress, I think or my skirt, I'm like 4 people away. bringing all that energy for me in my skirt. I'm excited. But before we go, is there anything that you want to share with the people that are watching and that are going to watch, and hopefully it's not the last time that you're going to be with us on our platform?
Do you still want me to share a poem?
Of course, totally. Share two of them. Didn't
Okay.
you have the two? You said two, so I think
Yes,
you got
I
two.
have two. Yeah.
Okay, let's do it. Okay, and wait a minute. When you talk about this type of poetry, is it because it comes from, like, what's it called again?
Spoken word poetry.
Spoken word poetry. Is it just because it flows from you, or what is that? That's one
It's
thing I
it's
didn't.
like it's like performance art.
Okay, yeah. Okay,
So
good. Oh yeah.
it's telling a story. It's like putting drama and theater with poetry.
Okay. All right, go to town. Let's go.
So you could dress up if you want. Some nights, it's spoken word open
Yeah.
mics. You can dress up and you can do whatever you want. You can bring props. It's cool.
Bring it.
Okay.
I want to.
So this is in my Indigenous Poetry Society book. It's also in my book. And this one is called We Will Begin Again. I wanted to find a way to tell you how to empower women, how to understand what an empowered woman looks like. The most powerful woman that came to mind had long black hair, wore buckskin hide, and carried the message of the sacred pipe. When I look around the room, I already know many of you do not understand who that woman may be. The image that is stained in your brain, designed to maintain a colonial image, you may think and see a different kind of lady. The image that may surface may be one of someone who's wearing a crown, sparkling jewels, diamonds, rubies, gold-plated wrists, feet, and fingers. When she walks into the room, rose petals fall from each step and butterflies dance around her. When she leaves the room, the scent of beauty lingers. So, it is a princess who stands before you with these Disney details, dress, shoes, and crown. Pause. Let that sink in. Nope. Switch it up and let the idea of beginning again. Disney never understood a crown or what it means now to be solid, to be strong, to sing our song from our souls and our ancestors' long braids to the depth of our wombs. We will begin again. Let's change the perception from what we thought a true female heiress is about and how she behaves. I know one thing for sure is if my grandmothers, my ancestors, the buffalo hunters and counting coop hitters would turn over in their graves if I ever carried that image sane. We have to take into consideration that our little girls look up to Pocahontas, Tiger Lily, and Disney. They eat that right up. They want our little girls to walk around ignorant of history, proud to be silent, well behaved, and destined to wait for a prince to find and fall in love. Well, I am not that Indian princess your childhood stories told you about. Don't tell me to be submissive and silent. My power cannot survive in doubt. As a woman who has to speak to you in the same tongue her ancestors were spoken to while being raped, I now speak to you in the same tongue, but it is not forked, it is empowered. And I use it to state the same claim to understand my new saying, which is to remain the same Indian professional woman on her A game, educated, creating a powerful legacy with the same last name they gave me. So take me. I say, take me and use me to empower my people, empower them powerfully. No matter how powerful the choir sings at the church steeple, I will sing with them. As long as we are singing a song, learning to understand the power of resilience within, we will begin again. Wearing my quill work and ribbon skirts, best believe I will come for you, and I will take my sisters back and still shoot first, because I am not a victim. I'm a powerful heart beating loud like a drum being hit at the ceremony. I stand before you ready to fight, ready for battles, a pen in hand, sweetgrass in the other. I'm here to free myself, to empower my sisters and my brothers. My self-determination cannot be determined by any sort of false idea of authority. The blood that runs through my veins helps me and it speaks through me. I'm a resilient woman sent by my ancestors, Nakota Sioux, Haudenosaunee, and Plains Cree. I come to you as a humble servant, prepared to love and speak or do whatever Creator intended for me to do, to be here with my degree and my spirituality. I know the problem in front of me is never as big as the power behind me, and we will begin again.
Woo!
That's a hard one to read.
it was amazing. I need to read it and hear it again and again and again. Wow. Wow.
So
Hey,
the second poem I
yeah.
have is Doubts, Thoughts, and Goals. It was the first poem I ever wrote, and it was scary as hell because I read it to just straight white audience at Lydia's, and it was well received because it was a perspective they didn't know we had. Whew. Okay.
Okay, I just want to be mindful, just in
Yep.
case everybody, if we get cut off, because I don't know if this is going to end in 8 minutes. So love y'all. Thanks for watching. Thank you to everybody that posted in the and left messages. I'll send them off to you.
This work was first performed at the FSAN, Federation of Saskatchewan Indian Nations Strength of Our Nations, Strength of Our Women Awards in 2015 at TCU Place, and has since been broadcast on CTV and APTN. So it is available online to be heard. Doubts, Thoughts, and Goals. I have been learning in school that we, the people of the plains, have been referred to as the Buffalo Nation, as Nehiyaw people. The buffalo was a strong, powerful force that cannot be reckoned with, regardless of the indoctrinating church steeples. With that said, I know there is a resilience amongst the history that is being told, but many say, I am not a child, and I'm tired of the victim mentality. Come on, it's getting old, and okay, so there's a problem, right, with the way my people have been living. So many people complain like they understand the history that we have been given. Each day I walk up and down 20th Street seeing children from residential school grown in body but not mind or spirit. I always wonder when people complain about my people, do they understand what it is like to experience 7 levels of trauma and then live through it? I don't know if you know what I am talking about when I say that each individual given to this earth by the Creator is a small piece of a big jigsaw puzzle. When one is born, they are given the gifts to live life in a good way, and those they run into in their journey help them through a destiny like struggle. I know for me, as a person who used to smoke crack, meth, and weed, I never did stop to think once that Creator would ever choose me. I took each toke, each drink, and each snort almost like a slap in the face towards my ancestors because I was angry at them for bringing me into such a messed up world. Every pain that happened in my life was what I saw instead of the blessings. So emotionally, I was not a woman. I was a little girl. Pause. Take that into perspective. When someone is born, they are born with gifts to live a good life in a good way, and those they run into in their journey help them to remember their destiny. It is said that through each person, they have guidance and protectors for their gifts, and nothing is remembered unless you do it through ceremony. You see, even though I struggled rough through my life, I've heard many say the tougher the struggle, the higher the calling. I no longer look for the chaos in life, instead embrace it and face the fear, because in life now I am gracefully falling. There is a story about how the most powerful force that cannot be stopped is like a herd of buffalo, fast, running through the prairies, wild and free. Each time I have certain past an internal conflict, a mental struggle, a financial difficulty, that one buffalo in that herd was me. So in this day, I have a confession to make. I have been so angry at the people who have been struggling with addictions amongst our power circle. I do not condone the behavior to be drunk or stoned in a sacred circle, but I also have acknowledged the power of the ancestors' power that's spiritual. Now, to think of it, when I witness coming into the grand entry during the beginning of the powwow, I feel empowered by the fierceness that exists. Each kukum that swings and sways or fringes, each mushum that reminds us of the protection, tells us this, that after all the colonization, all the assimilation that continues on today, we have the tiny tots come in, and they symbolize the next generation. This is what I've been told is called an unstoppable force meeting an unmovable object, because nothing can break the spirit in the Buffalo People Nation. They can continue to try to beat us down with systematic assimilation, with the red tape of organizations, with the policies against cultural inclusion. But guess what? We are those buffalo in those herds that are pounding on the ground, charging hard, charging fast in universities, sober and free. We are the buffalo in those herds that are grunting loud for all to hear, long hair growing, traditional and cultural practice, learning these things I am knowing. We are the buffalo in those herds that is growing, and one day I will lead that herd with everything that I have learned and experienced in this life will be well learned. I will take that raw history, that continuing assimilation, that traumatic generational effects, and run through it with all my spirit because I can't be broken. And those obstacles, well, as a buffalo, we can charge through it. Thank you. And poetry. Just kidding.
Oh my gosh, I love you.
Huh?
I'm coming. I'm coming. I'm coming. Oh, I know. It's like you're awesome. You're so filling, like I'm overflowing with love right now.
Oh, that's so
I
good.
want to, no, no, I'm not even kidding.
Holding
And for
space
all
holding
yes, like
space.
you're just awesome. You're awesome. You're more awesomer than your social media that I don't follow people. Okay. I just don't have the capacity because I myself have so much tip, but I love watching you. I love your life. I love what right? I got Peggy here. She's just like, wow, wow, powerful,
Uh-huh.
wow, right? And and Shelly, thank you. Yes. The book is called, oh, let me see. Do you have the cover of your other one with you? Do you have the one that says The Awakening?
Oh no, I don't have that one on me. I
Okay,
still most of them. I
you
have to
can
order
find it.
more.
Yeah, Shelly, you can find it. It's right Amazon. Just go to The Awakening. It comes up. It's got a skirt with some really cute moccasins. Amazing. Or yeah, I don't know what they are, slippers or something. But anyway, you are fabulous. Okay, we've been talking so much about just like doing more stuff together and doing work with Grandma's Voice and like I don't know. This is not stopping here. I'm not gonna creep you any like every day though anymore. Oh, you won't just till I get my skirt, maybe. Just till I get my skirt. Um, Tally, you're amazing. You're
Thank you.
amazing. Yeah, you really are. And I think that I'm gonna look into the spoken is it spoken poetry? Spoken word poetry? Like that resonated with me. And I don't know if it's because I just like to talk, but I just feel like it comes through. And when you were talking, I was feeling like just like my heart, like my center, more than my center, my core. And so you're just like my table's shaking. Like I'm shaking. Anyway, girl, you're pretty amazing. This was really fun. I could do this all day with you. I'm hoping that people watch. Let's stay connected. And anytime you want to share any of your magic and words and creations and anything, let us know. I know we're doing a lot of work here in Ontario. And I know that, especially the voice that you have, the experience, the knowledge, I'm going to invite you in and invite you into a lot of the training that we do. And it's yeah, it's going to be really, really powerful
I
because
love
you are,
training. I love learning new stuff.
yeah, we have, yeah. And I'm not even, I'm talking about you training
Oh,
people, Sherry, yeah, right? Like, no, I don't know how much
obligated.
training you need. Yeah. Hey, I
Need
know
more
I need some more training.
training. You can never get trained
Sherry's
enough.
like, Sherry must have just jumped on. She's like, yes, invite her. Invite Sherry. Wait till you watch this. You're going to lose your mind. Anyway, everyone, thank you so much for
Oh,
watching. We're going to stay. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
is this viewable? Can I share it on my social media and
Yeah.
people can watch it? Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
It's on Grandmother's Voice. You can share it after. It'll be, I think, a little bit, maybe in like 10 minutes. But
Okay,
also
cool.
on our YouTube. Our YouTube channel is completely available. This is a live stream. It's like TV. Yeah, we're
So
getting pretty
cool.
good at it. Is.
I
It
want
is.
my own TV show.
Yeah, okay,
I want to
let's
have
do
my own
it.
TV show where I can
Oh
just
my
be
God.
like, I don't know, where it's like, welcome to the Tala Show.
Right?
And be like, today
Right?
we're going to read Expert 2
Let's do it.
3.
Let's do it. Come on. We're gonna talk. We're gonna talk. I think people would really love it.
It was
Be
so cool.
raw, raw
I'm too
and
crazy.
real. No, yeah, so am I. That's good though. Well, it's okay. We're gonna be having a lot of fun. You've been amazing. Thank you so
Thank
much. I
you.
can't wait to get my book. We'll talk to you soon, girl.
Okay,
Take
have
care.
a good day.
You too. See ya.